David Mann, arrested. Yep, the headline that just broke the internet in half. But what if I told you this is only the trailer and the real movie is darker, twistier, and 10 times more scandalous than anyone expected? Behind all that Hollywood sparkle, those practiced red carpet grins, lurks a maze of betrayal, buried secrets, and jaw-dropping revelations starring 3 names no one imagined in the same mess: David Mann, Tyler Perry, and Kirk Franklin. Now the million-dollar question. Why now? Why would Tyler Perry, the guy famous for shielding his people and turning chaos into family, suddenly drop bombs that could nuke reputations for good? And what actually went down the night Kirk Franklin was supposedly attacked? The puzzle pieces just don't fit, and that's exactly why this story's exploding everywhere. Because when fame, loyalty, and legacies start cracking, the truth isn't just ugly, it's cinematic. So buckle up, because tonight we're yanking back the velvet curtain on the scandal-shaking gospel and Hollywood straight to their holy core. When the first whispers hit the internet about David Mann's arrest, fans laughed it off. David Mann? The charming actor, the gospel comedian, the man who built his entire brand on family, faith, and good vibes? No way. It sounded like clickbait until the whispers turned into roars. Within hours, the rumor mill went from confused to chaotic, and every tweet made the story darker, wilder, and more unbelievable. For years, Mann was untouchable, the face of clean comedy and Tyler Perry's go-to guy, lighting up stage plays, films, and TV screens everywhere. Seeing him in cuffs? Impossible. But fame has a nasty habit of pulling skeletons out of the designer closet, and this time, those shadows weren't going quietly. And here's the kicker: Mann's arrest wasn't just his problem. Oh no, it dragged 2 heavyweights straight into the storm: Tyler Perry and Kirk Franklin. Before anyone could blink, whispers of betrayal and an alleged attack on gospel royalty, Kirk Franklin turned one rumor into a wildfire. 3 icons, once shining symbols of faith and unity, suddenly tangled in a scandal so secretive even heaven might have gasped. The public's mild curiosity mutated into full-blown obsession the moment Tyler Perry, the king of privacy himself, finally broke his silence. His tone, calm but loaded, like every word was dipped in warning. Perry didn't spill tea. He poured mystery, hinting that the world had only seen the shiny trailer, not the dark, uncut version of the truth. He even teased that Kirk Franklin's incident was far from random, and that's when everyone lost it. But why talk now? Insiders whispered that the pressure had been bubbling for months. That so-called attack on Franklin wasn't just a tabloid headline, it was the match that lit years of jealousy, grudges, and betrayal. Hiding behind choir robes and camera lights, close friends said Franklin had been on edge long before the blow-up. Late-night calls, weird threats, unsettling run-ins. Some even claim he confided in Perry, warning that someone from his own circle might be plotting against him. And the rumor everyone hates to say out loud? That someone could have been David Mann. Unthinkable, right? Mann and Franklin were the picture of brotherhood, performing, laughing, praying side by side. But beneath those award show smiles and Instagram blessings, cracks were showing. Franklin's fiery personality reportedly clashed with Mann's calm front, and while they acted like friends in public, the tension backstage was a storm waiting to break. Tyler Perry, stuck right in the eye of this holy hurricane, reportedly tried to play the peacemaker. But once the alleged attack went down, leaving Kirk Franklin shaken and bruised, Perry ditched the calm act and dropped a truth bomb so big it broke the internet. He claimed David Mann's arrest was linked, one way or another, to the dark mystery behind Franklin's ordeal. The media went feral. Talk shows replayed Perry's every syllable like it was courtroom evidence. Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram turned into digital war zones of hashtags and wild theories. Was David Mann actually guilty, or just the latest pawn in Hollywood's faith-fueled chess game? Was Perry revealing justice or stirring up a scandal to burn it all down? And the million-dollar question: what on earth really happened to Kirk Franklin that night? One tabloid called it a betrayal of biblical proportions. Another roared, from gospel to gossip, faith leaders at war. Fans demanded receipts, but the deafening silence from Mann's side made it worse. Meanwhile, Franklin looked like a man haunted, quiet, distant, eyes heavy with secrets. When he finally spoke, his words were soft but chilling, hints of hurt, confusion, and something darker he wouldn't name. That silence? It screamed louder than any headline ever could. This was no longer just one man's downfall, it had morphed into a full-blown saga of broken brotherhoods, shredded reputations, and a stunned community trying to figure out how their faith-filled heroes ended up starring in their own scandal. And as fresh details kept dripping in, one thing got clearer by the minute: this storm wasn't ending anytime soon. The deeper it got, the shakier David Mann's halo became. Overnight, the poster boy for wholesome gospel entertainment was being recast as a man with shadows lurking behind that perfect grin. Was he really the joyful, family-loving icon everyone worshipped, or had we all been applauding a mask? Journalists pounced like vultures, combing through every dusty headline, every interview, every side-eye from his co-stars. Nothing solid surfaced, but the scraps were juicy enough to feed the beast. Stories of tense backstage blow-ups started circulating. Fans replayed old clips, suddenly swearing they could see it. That forced smile, that nervous laugh. Maybe the truth had been hiding in plain sight all along. Meanwhile, Tyler Perry's name didn't just stay in the mix, it supercharged the scandal. This wasn't some B-list cameo. Perry's influence made every whisper feel like gospel. His choice to speak up was hailed as heroic by some, but branded a betrayal by others. Insiders claimed the Perry-Mann bond had already been cracking creative clashes, ego wars, and the exhausting glare of fame. So maybe Perry's truth bomb wasn't just about protecting Kirk Franklin after all. Maybe it was his way of finally saying, "I'm done playing nice." And then there was Kirk Franklin, silent, shaken, and saying more with his quiet than any press statement ever could. Fans noticed it instantly. The fire dimmed, the spark gone. When he finally spoke, his words were wrapped in riddles. Not everything is as it seems. Sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. Cue instant meltdown. Was he calling out David Mann without naming him? Or hinting that an even nastier betrayal was still lurking backstage? The internet went nuclear. Twitter threads turned into conspiracy manifestos. Half the crowd screamed Mann was innocent, a holy man framed in some twisted plot to sabotage gospel icons. The rest branded him the ultimate wolf in church clothes, finally caught under the spotlight he used to own. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all drowning in memes, edits, and leak theory breakdowns. But the real chill came when sources whispered about a secret meeting weeks before the supposed attack where Mann, Perry, and Franklin were all in the same room. It reportedly ended with yelling, accusations, and one dramatic walkout that still has fans playing detective. What was said in that room? No one knows, but the timing? Way too perfect to ignore. As the chaos snowballed, truth and fiction started holding hands. Tabloids ran wild, claiming Franklin had proof against Mann, that Perry had been quietly shielding him, that rival execs were pulling puppet strings to destroy all three. The wildest rumor? A leaked video allegedly showing what really happened. But surprise, surprise, no footage ever surfaced. Just whispers, theories, and a scandal that refused to die. Still, just whispering about that dark truth was enough to keep the public completely obsessed. Everyone wanted answers. What exactly did Tyler Perry mean? Was David Mann truly behind the attack on Kirk Franklin, or just another casualty of a scandal way bigger than himself? The deeper this rabbit hole went, the blurrier the truth became. Facts melted into gossip, gossip turned into gospel, and nobody could tell which was which anymore. But one thing was clear: the glossy, untouchable image of these three icons had shattered. What once looked like unbreakable brotherhoods now felt like glass castles cracking under the weight of too many secrets. And the scariest part, insiders swore the juiciest revelations hadn't even dropped yet, while headlines screamed about Mann's arrest and Perry's bombshell confession. Something darker was unfolding off camera: the human fallout. Fame may sparkle under the stage lights, but behind those velvet ropes, the cracks were starting to show. Mann's loyal fans painted him as a victim, a good man caught in a holy ego war. But even his inner circle admitted he was unraveling. Sources described frantic late-night calls filled with confusion and heartbreak. He kept saying, "Why is this happening to me? Why would Tyler do this?" One insider revealed, he sounded lost, like the whole world he'd built just collapsed beneath his feet. Meanwhile, Kirk Franklin's silence started sounding less like peace and more like a cry for help. He wasn't naming names, but his words painted heartbreak in HD. In one leaked private chat, Franklin allegedly confessed, "It wasn't just an attack on me, it was an attack on everything I've built. My family, my music, my faith. I don't even know who I can trust anymore." That single quote detonated online. Fans went full detective mode, convinced this wasn't some random act of violence, it was betrayal from deep within his own circle. The question echoing everywhere: had someone he once called brother actually turned on him? Meanwhile, Tyler Perry's move to break his silence threw him center stage as the reluctant truth-teller nobody saw coming. The man who preached loyalty now found himself stirring the biggest storm of his career. Half the world called him brave, the rest labeled him a traitor. Was he shielding Franklin or finally firing back at David Mann after years of buried tension? Even Perry sounded conflicted. His words were precise, but they burned. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how hard people try to bury it. Sometimes silence is complicity. I refuse to stay silent anymore. Fans felt the chill instantly. If Tyler Perry was talking, it meant this mess was bigger, deeper, and way darker than the tabloids were daring to print. And just when people thought they'd heard it all, boom, the story twisted again. New sources popped up, claiming Mann and Franklin had clashed hard weeks before the blow-up, supposedly over money and creative control. Others swore it wasn't business at all but something far more personal, secrets so explosive that even insiders refused to say them out loud. For Kirk Franklin, the emotional toll was written all over his face. At one public event, his voice trembled, his eyes were glassy, and when reporters screamed questions about David Mann, he just bowed his head and muttered, "Not now." 2 words, that's all it took to blow up the internet. Not now? Did that mean he'd spill the truth later? Or was he choking back something too dark to say out loud? Meanwhile, David Mann's situation went from bad to biblical. His team kept shouting innocence, but leaked documents hinted at a legal nightmare tangled in accusations and half-buried investigations. No solid proof, sure, but the headlines weren't waiting for facts. The court of public opinion had already picked its villain. And yet, for every story crucifying Mann, another popped up painting him as the betrayed one. A good man sacrificed on the altar of celebrity drama. Fans split into factions, some screaming for justice, some yelling "set up," others just begging for someone, anyone, to tell the truth. The chaos was emotional carnage. A circle once built on gospel and loyalty now cracked into paranoia, whispers, and fear. And for the millions glued to the spectacle, one haunting thought lingered. If this is only the beginning, what skeletons are still waiting to dance out of the closet? Now, here we are, standing at the edge of a storm that refuses to die down. David Mann's arrest, Tyler Perry's cryptic bombshell, Kirk Franklin's silence that screams louder than any sermon. The puzzle pieces are on the table, but the picture? Still heartbreakingly incomplete. And here's the question everyone's still fighting over. Who's really telling the truth? Is David Mann the villain of this twisted saga, or the fall guy in a setup so deep it could shake gospel and Hollywood to their shiny cores? Is Tyler Perry, the brave whistleblower, pulling back the curtain after years of silence? Or is this all part of his own hidden agenda? And the most chilling question of all, what really happened to Kirk Franklin that mysterious night? This isn't just gossip anymore. It's a tangled web of secrets, betrayals, and unanswered questions rewriting the way we see our so-called heroes. The story isn't ending, it's just warming up. And guess what? You're now officially part of the investigation. So here's your moment. Do you think David Mann is guilty, or just a scapegoat caught in someone else's power play? Was Tyler Perry shielding Kirk Franklin, or protecting his own legacy? And will Franklin ever break his silence, or will the truth stay buried in the shadows? Tell us what you think in the comments. We're reading everything. Hit that like button if you believe the truth deserves daylight. Share this with someone who needs to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. And most importantly, subscribe, because this storm, it's only getting louder.